What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode here on Full Throttle. My name is Charlie, and today I'm finally getting back to the engine teardown series. It's been slammed lately, and we're trying to keep our business open during this whole entire, crazy time that the world is going through right now. But what we're gonna do right now is this engine right here is going into that silver Z right here. So what I need to do is I need to clear off one of these engine stands. So one of the last engines sitting on these engine stands is the teardown series. So I'm gonna finish taking apart that engine today, and I'm gonna show you guys what I do and how I do it, and that way I can put this engine onto that stand. Alright, so it's been a while since I've actually looked at all this stuff, but I needed to put everything away and organize everything. So you can see me grabbing everything, labeling it all into packages, so that way everything is organized and I keep track of what everything is and hardware and bolts and stuff like that. Keeping track of all of this just makes it a lot easier to put everything back together, especially when you're doing an engine build like this and you're taking everything apart. Next step is to blow out the head with compressed air, make sure there's no debris in there that's going to cause damage to the valve buckets or the camshafts. The only reason why I'm putting all this back together is to make sure everything is organized and all these valve buckets and everything go back in their right places. I'm oiling these because they're not aluminum and they will rust if you leave them for extended periods of time without being oiled. Some people use WD-40, I just use oil in this case. Now I'm wiping out the journals for the camshafts to make sure that when I oil them that there's nothing that's going to cause damage to the journals on the camshafts themselves. And depending on the humidity of where you live, some of this stuff can get rusted over time too. So anything that might get rusted, like the camshafts themselves, you might want to consider oiling everything, and then when you put everything away or get it ready for the machine shop, that nothing is going to be excessively rusted, and it's going to make assembly a lot easier. Now I'm wiping down the intake camshaft for bank 2 and putting the cam cap on, and I'm just going to hand tighten everything here. I don't need to torque any of this down, it's going to have to come back apart anyways. Now this is going into storage. Then I'm going to start working on bank 1 head. And just like the other head, I'm just putting everything together, oiling everything, making sure it's all good to put into storage as well. I'm going to lay down this piece of foam just so it doesn't score either of the mating surfaces on the heads. Now that's it for the boring stuff. Now we can start disassembling the rest of this block. So we've got the oil baffle on top, we've got the crankshaft, pistons, oil squirters, main bearings, and caps. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to start with is removing the baffle or the windage tray for the crankshaft. Then I'll set the hardware aside. Then I'm going to grab this crankshaft pulley bolt and an axle nut just so I can rotate the crank. Then I'm going to have a 12-point half-inch drive 10mm socket so I can break loose all of the rod bolts. And I'm going to go back and forth on these until the heads are exposed and I get a little bit of leverage, you can see here, just to move back and forth just to pull off the rod caps. Then after those caps are removed, I'm going to speed this up, and then I'm going to put the corresponding rod caps back with the rods themselves and then organize them in the orientation they came out. And this is why I put the crankshaft pulley bolt on with that axle nut, so that way I could spin this. And you can see here on the rod itself there's dowel pins that align it to the rod cap on both sides, so that way this goes on only one direction. This is the torque sequence for the main caps and the girdle. You're going to start at 16, then work your way down. And you're going to loosen these in 90-degree increments. So you're going to start and then go up to 90 degrees in loosening, and then you're going to move on to the next one, and then I'm going to go all the way back to number 16 again and do it 90 degrees again. Then I'm going to zip them all out once they're all loose, remove the girdle with all the main cap bolts, and then I'm going to grab 2 of these bolts and place it onto the main caps, just like what I did with the rod bolts, just to give you a little bit of leverage to break them loose here. So after you break these loose, you can work your way down. And I actually forgot to take off the rear main seal before I put this onto the engine stand. So I'm going to struggle a little bit getting to these 10mm. And you can see why they're so hard to reach, especially with this engine stand in the way. But after you get it off, I use a rubber mallet, tap it a couple of times, on both sides, moving back and forth until it pops off. And after this rear main seal is removed, you can grab the crankshaft and remove this. One of the thrust washers fell right there on the ground. These are all going to be replaced anyways. And I'm going to start removing the oil squirters or oil jets. Just like the rod caps, they're 10mm 12 point. Then I'm going to start removing all of the main bearings. The easiest way to do this is to gently push down on the tang on one side and then put a little bit of pressure and remove it just like that. So this is all we disassembled today. And if you actually look at the main caps, they're actually numbered and they have an arrow facing in the direction that they go on the engine. I'm going to place all these back because these are machined with the block, so you're going to want to keep them with the block. Then I'm going to put the girdle back on just to keep everything together because I want to make sure that everything with this engine stays with this engine since we're going to be rebuilding it. I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to wrap it up with saran wrap just to make sure that it's nice and clean and there's no foreign debris that gets in there, even though the engine is pretty dirty. Alright guys, so that's pretty much it for this video. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button and feel free to drop a comment if you have any questions. I'm going to drop this engine off of this engine stand and then get ready to put that engine on for the customer's car. So I'll see you guys in the next one. And the next video, what we're going to be doing is taking all the measurements for out of round and taper for each cylinder, and then if everything's good, I don't have to send it off to a machine shop. If everything is not good, then I'm going to send it off to a machine shop and go up to like 0.020 over bore, which is, instead of 95.5 millimeters, it's going to be 96 millimeters. It's not that big of a difference, but then I can get, you know, torque plates and I can get actually like a perfect cylinder bore instead of what it might be if it is. So I'll see you guys in the next one. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button and drop a comment if you have any questions.